It was a crisp fall morning, and the parking lot outside the bustling grocery store was alive with activity. Shoppers hurried in and out, carts brimming with goods for the week ahead. Among the neatly lined vehicles, one stood out. A sleek red sports car parked squarely in a handicap spot. It didn't have the requisite permit displayed, and its presence sparked irritation among onlookers. Inside the store, Robert, a retired Marine Corps veteran, was finishing his shopping. His strong build and a hint of a limp spoke of years of service, and his sharp eyes scanned the aisles with precision. He wore his usual leather jacket, adorned with a small pin marking his years in the service. But this morning, his usually calm demeanor was about to be tested. As he exited the store, his attention was drawn to the red car. A woman in a wheelchair struggled to maneuver her vehicle around it. A father helped his son step out of a van parked several spaces away, shaking his head in disapproval at the blatant disregard for the reserved space. Robert approached the car, noting the absence of any handicap tags or plates. The driver, a young white man in his late 20s, was leaning against the vehicle, scrolling on his phone with an air of indifference. His designer sunglasses and expensive clothes exuded arrogance, as if rules didn't apply to him. "Excuse me," Robert began, his voice steady yet commanding. "This spot is reserved for people who actually need it." The young man barely glanced up from his phone, muttering, Yeah, I'll be out of here in a bit. Relax, old man." The dismissive tone hit Robert like a slap. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "This isn't about me. It's about the people who rely on these spaces to live their lives. Do you understand that?" The young man smirked, finally looking up. "Do you understand that I don't care? Find another fight, Grandpa." Robert stood firm, his years of discipline keeping his temper in check. "I've fought more battles than you'll ever know, son, and I'm not backing down from this one." A small crowd began to gather, their curiosity piqued by the exchange. A store employee stepped outside, whispering to another shopper about the confrontation. Among them was Mrs. Harris, an elderly woman who often saw Robert at the local Veterans Bat Club. She knew his story, his years of service, the injury that had left him with a limp, and his unwavering commitment to standing up for what was right. Robert leaned on his cane, his eyes never leaving the young man's face. "If you won't listen to reason, maybe a little lesson in respect is in order." The young man laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the parking lot. "What are you going to do? Call the cops? Go ahead. Waste your time." But Robert didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped back, addressing the growing crowd. "This isn't just about a parking spot. It's about respect. Respect for those who've sacrificed, those who've struggled, and those who rely on the little things that make life bearable." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, even the young man seemed to falter. But his arrogance quickly returned. "Spare me the lecture," he scoffed. The next thing the young man did was to lift his hand, and just as he was about to throw a punch, Robert grabs his hand and twisted it to the back. "You've got to be kidding, young man. I would let this slide, but do get into your stupid car and get the hell out," Robert told him. The young man was shocked that someone who he had called Grandpa earlier could show this kind of strength in him. His ego began to deflate. Just then, a black SUV pulled into the lot, and out stepped another veteran, Sergeant Jenkins, a friend of Robert's who had heard about the confrontation from Mrs. Harris. Dressed in his service cap and jacket, he walked with the same proud, measured gait that Robert did. The two veterans exchanged a nod, their mutual respect palpable. Together they turned to the young man, their presence a united front. "You may not care about rules or respect," Sergeant Jenkins said, his voice low and firm, "but you will care about consequences." As the tension mounted, the young man shifted uncomfortably. The crowd murmured in agreement, their support for the veterans growing. Robert stepped closer, his voice calm but unyielding. "This isn't just about today. It's about who you choose to be. Do you want to be the man who disregards others, or the one who stands for something greater? You should leave." The young man hesitated, his bravado slipping. He glanced around, realizing the weight of the moment. With a reluctant sigh, he grabbed his keys and unlocked the car. "Fine," he muttered, climbing into the driver's seat. "Happy now?" As he pulled out of the spot, the crowd erupted into applause. Robert and Sergeant Jenkins exchanged a satisfied glance, their quiet victory a testament to the power of perseverance and principle. The lesson didn't end there. Days later, the young man returned to the store, seeking out Robert. His demeanor had shifted. Gone was the arrogance, replaced by a newfound humility. He didn't find Robert in the store, but found someone who told him where to find Robert. "I wanted to apologize," he began, when he found Robert at the local Veterans Club, his voice steady but sincere. "You were right. I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Robert accepted the apology with a nod, his words simple but profound. "It's never too late to change, son." The story of that day spread throughout the town, a reminder of the importance of respect, compassion, and the courage to stand up for what's right. The encounter between Robert and the young man Jeremy didn't end with just an apology. For Jeremy, it was the beginning of a transformative journey, one that would unravel his past, challenge his values, and set him on a new path. After that day at the grocery store, Jeremy couldn't shake the image of Robert's resolute face, the way he held his punch in the air and the crowd's applause. It gnawed at him, not because of shame alone, but because it was the first time someone had truly stood up to him. He was used to getting his way, skating by on charm and privilege. But Robert's words had struck a nerve, awakening something dormant inside him. Jeremy decided to learn more about Robert. A quick search online revealed the veteran's history, a decorated Marine who had served in some of the most dangerous conflicts of the 20th century. He had been injured in the line of duty and returned home to a nation that didn't always honor its veterans, especially those of color. Yet Robert had never let bitterness consume him. Instead, he dedicated his life to mentoring young men in the community, teaching them discipline, respect, and the value of hard work. This discovery left Jeremy intrigued. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to seek out Robert again, not for absolution, but for answers. A week later, Jeremy showed up at the local Veterans Club where Robert volunteered. Clad in jeans and a plain shirt, he looked nothing like the arrogant young man from before. He found Robert in the back, polishing old trophies and plaques. "Robert?" Jeremy began hesitantly. Robert turned, his expression neutral. "Jeremy," he said, recognizing him instantly. "What brings you here a second time?" I wanted to talk, if that's okay," Jeremy said, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. Robert set down the cloth he was using and gestured to a nearby chair. "All right, I'm listening." What followed was a conversation that would last hours. Jeremy opened up about his life, how he had grown up in privilege, always shielded from consequences by his family's wealth. He confessed that he had never truly thought about others, only himself. Robert listened patiently, his gaze unwavering. When Jeremy finished, Robert spoke, his tone firm but kind. "Acknowledging your flaws is a good start, but change isn't about words, it's about actions." Jeremy nodded, sensing the weight of those words. He asked Robert how he could start making amends, not just for the parking lot incident, but for a lifetime of selfishness. Robert thought for a moment before responding. "You can begin by giving back. Find something bigger than yourself and commit to it. But remember, this isn't about redemption, it's about doing what's right because it's right." Over the next few months, Jeremy followed Robert's advice. He began volunteering at the Veterans Club, helping organize events and fundraisers. He also took up a job at a local community center, mentoring underprivileged teens. It was hard work, and there were moments when he wanted to quit. But he kept going, driven by the memory of Robert's unwavering conviction. One day, while helping set up for a charity event, Jeremy noticed an older man struggling to carry a stack of chairs. Without hesitation, he stepped in to help. The man thanked him and introduced himself as Sergeant Jenkins. "You're Robert's project, aren't you?" Jenkins said with a knowing smile. Jeremy laughed. "I guess you could say that." Jenkins clapped him on the shoulder. "Robert sees potential in people. If he's taken you under his wing, it's because he believes you can do better. Don't let him down." As the months turned into years, Jeremy's transformation became evident. He no longer sought validation through material possessions or empty accolades. Instead, he found fulfillment in the connections he made and the lives he touched. One day, Jeremy approached Robert with a proposal. "I want to start a foundation," he said. "Something that helps veterans and underprivileged kids. I've been saving up, and I think it's time to do something meaningful." Robert's face broke into a rare smile. That's a fine idea, Jeremy, but remember, this is just the beginning. The work never ends. The foundation, aptly named Second Chances, became a beacon of hope in the community. It provided resources for veterans transitioning to civilian life and mentorship programs for at-risk youth. Jeremy worked tirelessly to ensure its success, often drawing on the lessons Robert had taught him. At the foundation's grand opening, Jeremy gave a speech. He spoke about the day he met Robert and the moment that changed his life. He didn't shy away from admitting his mistakes, using them as a testament to the power of growth and redemption. Robert, seated in the front row, listened with quiet pride. As the applause echoed through the hall, he leaned over to Jenkins and said, "Sometimes, all it takes is a little push in the right direction." Jeremy's journey didn't end there. He continued to grow, learning from every experience and using his platform to advocate for respect, kindness, and accountability. And though he had started as a man who took up space in a handicap parking spot, he became someone who created spaces for others to thrive. As for Robert, he remained a steady presence in Jeremy's life, offering guidance and wisdom when needed. Together, they proved that change is always possible, no matter where you start. The foundation became a cornerstone in the community, attracting support from local businesses, civic organizations, and even national figures who resonated with its mission. Second Chances grew beyond what Jeremy could have imagined, branching into scholarship programs for disadvantaged youth and workshops that taught life skills to veterans. One winter evening, during a fundraiser gala for the foundation, Jeremy invited Robert to the stage as the guest of honor. The crowd fell silent as Jeremy introduced him. "This man," Jeremy began, his voice thick with emotion, "didn't just teach me a lesson in a parking lot. He showed me the meaning of integrity, respect, and the power of taking responsibility. Without his guidance, I wouldn't be the man I am today." Robert stepped up to the podium, visibly moved. He adjusted the microphone and began to speak. "I didn't do anything extraordinary," he said, his tone humble yet firm. "I simply reminded someone of a truth we all need to hear. Every action matters. Every choice defines who we are, and when we help each other, we create ripples that can change lives." The audience erupted in applause, many standing to show their appreciation. Jeremy handed Robert a plaque, engraved with the words, "In honor of your unyielding courage and unmatched wisdom." As the evening wound down, Jeremy and Robert sat together, reflecting on how far they'd come. Jeremy admitted he still thought about the man he used to be, not with regret, but as a reminder of the importance of growth. Robert smiled. "That's the mark of real progress, Jeremy. You don't forget where you came from. You use it to guide where you're going." Their bond deepened over the years, a relationship built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Robert, now an elder statesman in the community, continued to inspire with his stories and insights. Jeremy, in turn, became a mentor to others, passing on the lessons he'd learned. Eventually, Second Chances expanded to neighboring states, gaining recognition as a national model for community support and empowerment. Jeremy was invited to speak at conferences and events, often accompanied by Robert, whose wisdom and authenticity made him an equally compelling figure. One day, during a particularly moving interview, Jeremy was asked what motivated him to dedicate his life to service. He smiled and said, "It all started in a parking lot. One man refused to let me get away with disrespecting others, and that moment changed everything." Robert, watching the interview from home, nodded approvingly. He knew Jeremy's journey was far from over, but he also knew the young man had become a force for good, a testament to the fact that even the smallest actions can spark profound change. In time, Jeremy would go on to inspire countless others, his story a reminder that accountability and kindness can transform not only individuals, but entire communities. As for Robert, he continued to be the quiet hero, always there with a word of advice or a steady hand, ensuring that the ripple of his stand in that parking lot would echo for generations. Years later, Robert's health began to decline. The once vibrant and energetic veteran now moved a bit slower, but his spirit remained as strong as ever. Jeremy visited him frequently, often bringing along members of the Second Chances team, who wanted to meet the man who had inspired it all. One afternoon, as they sat on Robert's porch, Jeremy brought a small, wrapped box. Handing it to Robert, he said, "This is a little something from all of us." Robert opened the box to reveal a bronze statue of two figures, a veteran standing tall and proud next to a young man looking up at him. The plaque at the base read, "To Robert, whose strength and wisdom built bridges where there were once walls, you will forever be our guiding light." Robert's eyes glistened as he ran his fingers over the intricate details. "I don't know what to say," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "This means more to me than you'll ever know." Jeremy smiled. "You gave us all so much, Robert. This is just a small way to say thank you." In the weeks that followed, Robert's health continued to decline, and one crisp autumn morning, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. The news hit the community hard, and people from all walks of life came forward to share how Robert had touched their lives. Jeremy organized a memorial service that reflected Robert's incredible legacy. Held in the town square, it was attended by hundreds, including veterans, community leaders, and everyday citizens who had been inspired by his kindness and courage. As the sun set that evening, Jeremy stood at the podium, addressing the crowd. "Robert taught us that standing up for what's right, even in the smallest of moments, can change the course of someone's life. He didn't just teach me a lesson in a parking lot. He taught me how to live with purpose." In honor of Robert, the Second Chances Foundation created the Robert Daniels Scholarship Fund, supporting veterans and their families as they transitioned to civilian life. The fund became one of the foundation's most impactful initiatives, ensuring that Robert's spirit of service and compassion lived on. Jeremy often visited Robert's grave, a simple headstone that read, "Robert Daniels, a veteran, a mentor, a hero." On one such visit, he brought his young son, who had been named Robert in the late veteran's honor. As they stood together, Jeremy placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "This is the man who showed me how to be better. One day, I'll tell you the full story." The boy looked up at his father, curiosity shining in his eyes. Was he really a hero? Jeremy smiled, his heart full. "The greatest kind. Not because he wore a uniform, but because he used every moment to make the world a better place." And so, Robert's legacy continued, carried forward by those who had been forever changed by his courage, wisdom, and unyielding belief in the power of doing what's right. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to Home of Stories TV, and do not forget to turn on the notification bell for more inspiring videos. Drop your comments below, let us know your thoughts.